Do you feel that in 2026 things are shifting, but no person can really give it a name? It is not a change in your job or the trouble going on outside, but a quiet move happening inside your own head, as if life is trying to tell you that this year, the person who leads is no longer the strongest one. Instead, it is the person who can control their inner world. There is a truth that very few people talk about. The gap between those who go very far and those who stay stuck does not depend on luck or situations, but on the state of mind they use to live. A person carried away by group worry, what society expects, or the noise of the crowd will always fall back. But someone who knows how to watch their own thoughts, understand their feelings, and break away from old habits, they will see ways to move that the rest cannot see. And in a year where everything changes faster than logic can follow, controlling your mind is not just a skill, but the biggest advantage you can own.
This video is for you if you do not want to just get by in the new year, but truly lead. We will go through 7 layers of inner power, 7 Jungian ideas that help you rise in 2026, not by fighting others, but by mastering your own mind. If you are ready, we will start right now. The art of inner stillness. Number 1, the art of inner stillness. There is a weird fact that most people do not see. The more people try to move quickly, the more they actually fall back. And those who know how to stop for a moment, to put a layer of silence between themselves and the world, are the ones who find the right path first. Jung once mentioned that a human can only hear the call of their inner mind when they are no longer pulled into the loud sounds of life. And if 2026 is a year of fixing your inner self, then the first skill that helps you rise above all is the power to quiet yourself from the inside. The world this year works in a different way.
Competition is no longer about who does more work, but about who is more awake. Good chances do not come to the loud people, but to the ones who are quiet enough to see the signs that others miss. Stillness, through the eyes of Jung, is not about running away from life, but returning to your center, where the inner mind can send signals and gut feelings that the logical mind cannot create on its own.
A person who has no stillness is like someone trying to hear an important secret in a very busy market. They hear the noise more than the real message. Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside wakes up." And it is in this quiet stillness that a person truly wakes up. If you pay attention, everything in today's modern world is getting too full. Information is growing 10 times faster. Social change is 100 times faster, and what others expect of us is 1,000 times higher. We are all pulled into constant movement until we realize that what makes us tired is not the work, but the inner noise. Some people do very little but feel very tired because their mind is thinking about thousands of possibilities. Others do a lot yet feel light because inside them is a calm lake that does not shake. The difference is stillness. I once heard a story about a young woman working in the tech world where things changed every hour. She often felt like she was being left behind, even though she worked all the time and followed every new trend. One day, her boss told her, "You do not lack talent. You lack space in your mind to see what is most important." That sentence changed her whole life. Instead of chasing everything, she spent 10 minutes every morning in total silence. No phone, no goals, no pressure. Just sitting and letting her mind go back to its natural position. In a few weeks, she started seeing chances she had never thought about before. Clarity did not come from hard work. It came from the pause. That is exactly what Jung meant. The inner mind sends quiet signals, and only those who turn down the noise can hear them. The more you try to find answers using only logic, the further you get from them.
But when you become quiet, the answers often come up on their own, like a leaf rising to the top of a pond once the water settles. If your mind is a mirror, noise is a hand making it dirty. The harder you try to see, the more blurry it gets. But when you stop touching it and stop rushing, the mirror clears up and shows you exactly what you need to see. Stillness does not make opportunities, but it helps you see them. And maybe that is why in 2026, the winner is not the one who knows the most, but the one who steps out of the race long enough to see a path the crowd hasn't found yet. When you have stillness, you do less work, but it is deeper. You move slower, but more accurately. You no longer follow the noise of society, but follow signals from deep inside yourself. What Jung called the old wisdom of the soul, quietly guiding you in the most important moments of your life. You will realize that being clear comes from stillness, not from knowing facts.
A good choice is not made from thinking too much, but from stopping long enough to hear your own gut feeling. When you master inner quiet, you start to move faster than others without needing to run. You see chances before they are obvious. You know when to go forward and when to stop. You use your energy perfectly and take it back with wisdom. You are no longer carried away by noise because you know that true speed comes from a clear mind. And that is why the first step to staying ahead in 2026 by mastering your mind must start here. Stillness. When you are quiet inside, the world fixes itself around you. Seeing the unseen. Reading your own shadow.
Number 2. Seeing what is hidden. Reading your own shadow. And when you are quiet enough to hear the smallest signs from inside, you begin to see clearly the part you have ignored for years, the shadow. Jung believed that nobody truly grows up until they face what they least want to see. And in the fast-changing world of 2026, the person who rises is not the person who knows the most, but the one who is brave enough to face what has been pulling them backward. The shadow is not a dark side in a bad way, and it is not evil or negative as we often think. It is simply the part of you that has been hidden or pushed away because you feared it, felt ashamed of it, or believed society would not like it. Jung once wrote that the scariest thing is to accept yourself fully. Each person carries an invisible bag filled with old fears, other people's rules, past hurts, secret jealousy, hidden anger, or desires they never dared to live. And the paradox is this. The hidden bag is exactly what decides if you succeed or stay stuck in 2026. In Jungian therapy, I once met a woman named Elena. She appeared strong, confident, and in control. But behind this polished outside was a shadow she would not face, the fear of being left alone. Because of this fear, she tried to control every relationship, tried to make everyone happy, and felt terrible whenever she thought someone was moving away from her. She thought she was loving people deeply, but in truth, she was being driven by an old wound. She had memories from childhood of her mother leaving her alone for entire days to go to work. That hurt stayed with her for years, causing her to repeat habits she did not understand. In therapy, Elena realized that what ruined her relationships was not other people, but the part of herself she never dared to face. And only when she had the courage to name her fear did her journey toward love begin, from freedom, not attachment.
That is why Jung said, people are not held back by the world. They are held back by the parts of themselves they hide. In 2026, when everything is changing fast, those who do not see their repeating habits will feel like they are being dragged backward. The more you run, the more your shadow follows. The more you avoid it, the bigger it becomes. But the person brave enough to look it in the eye becomes free. Strength does not come from getting rid of the shadow, but from understanding it. In movies, the story of Nina in the film Black Swan is a beautiful Jungian image of the shadow. Nina is a dancer obsessed with being perfect, clinging to the face of the good girl, controlling every breath and every move. But when she must change into the Black Swan, her messy and natural side, she realizes she has denied half of her soul. Nina's shadow shows up as jealousy, worry, anger, and desire, all the things she tried to hide.
And it is only through facing this shadow, painful as it is, that the true artist within her is freed. She becomes whole not by being better, but by owning the part she once hated. The most important question you can ask yourself this year is not, how do I become better, but what habit inside me is repeating? Because the shadow does not always look like a clear fear. It often shows up as small reactions you think are just your personality, but really they are traces of the inner mind talking. These repeating habits are the invisible hand making your decisions. The more you see them, the freer you become. And freedom is the biggest advantage in a messy world. When you face your shadow, you begin to walk lighter, Not because life is easier, but because you stop carrying the rocks you once thought were yours to carry. And that lightness helps you move ahead of others, see doors they cannot see, and choose paths they do not dare to choose. And the most important thing to remember is this: the shadow does not hurt you. It only hurts you when you pretend it is not there. When you are honest enough to name it, calm enough to watch it, and brave enough to embrace it, you not only walk faster, you walk in the right direction. That is the true advantage in 2026. The strength of someone who sees themselves. From here, you move into another level of strength. The moment you see your shadow, the power to keep growing without needing to be seen, praised, or clapped for. If you are watching this far, a part of you is already changing, and I want to invite you to do something small but powerful. Write down or share in the comments a habit you have noticed in yourself, or a fear you are ready to name in 2026. No need for details or perfect explanations. Just one sentence is enough.
I realize my shadow is, or what I want to let go of in 2026 is, because sometimes the first act of leading is not changing, but daring to speak the truth you used to avoid. Building strength without the need for validation. Number 3. Building strength without the need for praise. According to Jung, most human tiredness comes from keeping up the mask, the social face we wear to be loved, respected, and seen as good enough. And as we enter 2026, the world needs a different kind of power, strength that does not depend on what others think. Jung once warned, "The mask is a complicated system of relations between individual mind and society," meaning the more tightly you hold on to the mask, the further you get from your true nature. Humans cannot grow if they live depending on the approval of others. And in a time where a like can give us energy for a few minutes, only to leave a long emptiness later, the power to grow inner power without an audience becomes a survival skill.
What makes us weak is not that we are doing too little, but that we let other people's eyes decide our rhythm. Like a candle standing in the wind, every time it waits for the wind to blow the right way to shine, it forgets that true heat comes from the fire inside. Working in silence is not about hiding from the world, but about taking back energy from the stage of life, returning to the backstage where we can touch our truest self and quietly build power that outside noise cannot get through. I once heard the story of a man in the creative world, always pressured to prove he was moving in the right direction. Every project he shared was a way to measure his worth. Every compliment was like a drug, making him feel real. And every quiet day made him anxious because nobody saw him anymore. Eventually, he realized he was no longer creating. He was performing. And performance never builds real strength. He decided to disappear for 6 months. No posting, no chasing praise. He worked on his skills and read books he used to ignore because they weren't exciting to share. When he came back, everyone was shocked. His work no longer tried to impress. It had a soul. He said, "I thought I was weak because I lacked talent, but I was weak because I lived on other people's light." Science also shows that when people stop looking for outside praise, the brain's reward system begins to fix itself again. This helps you focus deeply and activates brain parts related to smart thinking, meaning when you stop living to be seen, your brain becomes stronger in the long term. You don't just become better, you become biologically smarter. In Jung's words, this is the moment when life energy pulls back from the mask and returns to the true self. When you no longer spend energy keeping up the mask, you finally have energy to build your real nature. Those who dare enter the phase of not needing to be seen always return with a different energy. Not because they have changed a lot, but because they have let go of the show. They become more solid and more steady. 2026 is the year where the leader is not the one who runs into the light, but the one who knows how to step away from it at the right moment to make the inner world strong before taking the next step. The one who gets ahead is not the fastest, but the one who is not pulled into comparison or bound by what others expect. They understand that stepping back into the dark for a while is not running away, but building a mental foundation deep enough to push them far ahead later. And the most important truth you must understand:
When you no longer need praise, you can no longer be controlled. When you no longer need others' eyes, you begin to follow the path that is truly yours. When you no longer use the world's feedback as fuel, your inner power becomes a source of energy that never ends. That is why the strongest people always have a time where they disappear. Not because they're weak, but because they're building a strength that others cannot see. In a world obsessed with looks, the one who doesn't need an audience is the one who can achieve the greatest things. Because real strength, like the roots of a tree, is always built in the dark. Decode and transform your emotions before they control you. Number 4, understand and change your emotions before they boss you around. The year 2026 is the year feelings become a big advantage. Not facts, not skills, not speed, but the ability to stay steady inside while the world moves faster than ever. Jung once wrote, "There can be no changing of darkness to light without emotion," meaning emotion is not something to avoid, but a life force trying to lead you toward a truth you have not seen yet. The person who knows how to listen to their emotions knows how to listen to themselves, and the person who knows how to understand them will lead ahead of the 99% who only react without thinking. Emotion, in Jung's view, is energy carrying information. It never appears randomly. Feeling bad means you are crossing a line. Fear means you are about to grow. Anger shows a value that was hurt. Sadness shows where healing has not happened. But most people cannot read this language. They don't truly feel, they react. And when reaction becomes a way of life, every decision is driven by the inner mind.
Each time an emotion rises, worry, anger, or emptiness, do not rush to push it away. See it as a messenger from your deepest part knocking on the door. Each time you pause, breathe slowly, and ask, what is the real message here? You not only soften the feeling, but take back the steering wheel of your life from the automatic reactions that have controlled you for years. A viewer of this channel once shared that she works in finance, where pressure keeps everyone in tension. She often got angry at colleagues, felt worried for no clear reason, and finished each day tired. She thought the problem was her job or her coworkers. But during therapy, the specialist asked her one simple question. Do you know what each of your emotions is trying to tell you? She went silent, because she had never paused long enough to listen. As they worked through her emotions, she realized her anger came from feeling ignored, her worry from not feeling good enough, and her tiredness from not resting. Only when she started listening did her emotions begin to calm down. 6 months later, she told me something I will never forget. My emotions no longer knock me down, they guide me. That is the power of understanding emotions. It not only makes you steady, but opens chances you could not see before. Those who master emotions do not react in panic, do not make choices because they are afraid of being left behind. They own a pause Jung called the sacred pause, a small space but enough for you to see what belongs to you, what comes from the inner mind, and what must be acted on. In a world running on fast reactions, the one who holds that pause will always go ahead.
Imagine emotions as waves in the ocean. The person who doesn't understand them is the one being thrown around, with each wave tossing them in a different direction. But the one who understands emotions is looking beneath the surface, where the true currents flow. They are not afraid of waves, they are not fighting them, and they are not being dragged by them. They simply watch, understand the current, and use its force to go farther. We cannot control the waves, but we can master how we move within them. Understanding emotions is not about hiding them. It is the art of looking directly at them and asking, what are you trying to tell me? When you do that, you stop exploding over small things. You stop panicking over things you don't know. You stop letting others' emotions invade your own. You become heavier, in a good way, meaning you are grounded. That steadiness is what keeps you solid in the volatile year of 2026. This year, the one who goes ahead is the most emotionally steady. Not the person without emotions, but the one who understands them and uses them as a compass. When you know how to read these quiet signals, you no longer live in reaction, but in choice. You no longer let emotions drive you, you drive them. And from that moment, you begin to rise above everyone.
If you want to begin your emotional mastery journey in 2026, leave one word in the comments: clarity. Not for others to see, but to send a signal to your inner mind. I am ready to listen to you, instead of running from you. Sometimes one word is the first door into a new life. Number 5. Escaping the collective unconscious. And once you have learned to understand your feelings before they boss you around, you will start to see another layer of power that is very quiet: the pull of the crowd. In a world where feelings and information move faster than ever, the most risky thing is not that you do not know what you want, but that you secretly want what the whole world wants. Jung called this the power of the group mind, the collective unconscious, an invisible force that shapes the thoughts and choices of millions of people without them even knowing it. In the next year, the difference will not be in personal talent, but in the ability to keep your mind independent. When the whole world acts in the same way, the person who breaks free from the group mind will lead, because they are not carried away by fears that are not their own.
They are not chasing trends that do not fit their real self, and not losing their way just because the crowd changes direction too fast. Jung once said that the most scary thing is not the dark side of one person, but the dark side of a whole society. He wrote, "The bigger the crowd, the less the individual matters." When the crowd gets scared, each person easily loses clear thinking. When the crowd loves something too much, each person becomes easy to trick. And when the crowd makes a choice, each person becomes afraid to go the other way, even if their gut feeling is pointing to a totally different truth. I am reminded of the story of Emma Watson, one of the few famous women who chose to go against what everyone expected. When the whole world expected her to keep taking big movie roles, to keep her career at the top, Emma chose to step away from acting, to go to university, fight for women's rights, and join projects with long-term goals instead of chasing quick fame.
She once said that public pressure made her feel stuck in the role of Hermione, and if she did not escape it, she would live a life others wanted for her, not the one she wanted. The bravery to step off that group path did not make her disappear. Instead, it turned her into a symbol of thinking for oneself in a time where most people are controlled by outside voices. Emma did not run faster than the crowd. She simply walked in her own direction, and by doing that, she moved ahead of them. Escaping the group mind is like that. It is not about being a rebel. It is not about fighting the majority. Imagine standing at a crossroad in the fog. The crowd rushes loudly in one way, and by instinct you want to follow. Not because you know the path, but because you fear being left behind. But if you stand still for a few minutes and wait for the fog to clear, you will see another path that is totally empty ahead of you, perfectly matching where you are meant to go. The crowd is not wrong.
They are simply not going where you need to be, and if you run with them, you will lose your own life path instead of joining the flow of the world. The group mind works more quietly than we think. It does not force you to do something. It simply makes you fear what everyone fears, like what everyone likes, and want what everyone praises. When the world worries about a problem, you worry too, even if your life has not changed at all. When the world chases a new definition of success, you suddenly feel you need it, even if it has nothing to do with your own path. When the world loves a certain lifestyle, you suddenly feel wrong for not being like that. That is the moment the crowd is thinking for you, and you lose your greatest power, the freedom to choose. Thinking for yourself is not a gift you are born with. It is a muscle, and 2026 is the year you must train that muscle every day.
Each time the group's emotion comes toward you, ask, does this really belong to me? Each time a new trend shows up, tell yourself, does this bring me closer to my real self? Each time the crowd hates or praises something, try standing at the edge for a moment, watching instead of reacting. The moment you step 1 inch outside the group flow is the moment you see a map. The other 99% cannot see it. That is why getting away from the group mind is one of the most important keys to leading in 2026. You do not move ahead by running faster than the crowd, but by stopping your chase after them. When you think with your own mind, feel with your own heart, and choose based on your own soul, you not only move ahead, you move correctly. And in a messy world, moving in the right direction is the biggest advantage of all. Number 6. Envision the person you must become in 2026.
So if you are no longer being shaped by the crowd, who do you truly want to be in 2026? This is not a question about money goals or job titles, but a question about a soul plan, the inner character you choose to live from. Jung once said that people do not move toward the future by willpower, but by the hidden image they hold of themselves. He wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." When you carry a strong enough inner image, life begins to change itself to move you toward it. Jung called this the power of the inner image, where an inner vision acts as a compass. You cannot lead in 2026 if you do not know where you are going. The world is changing too fast for hard plans or fixed ideas. The only thing that can help you stay on track is the character your soul chooses to become. This is not magic talk.
Science has shown that the image you keep in your mind for long enough can change your brain. The front part of the brain, which handles long-term vision, turns on whenever you imagine your future self. When this brain part is trained often, the brain begins to pick choices that match that character, like your internal GPS being set again. A friend of mine named Anna, who works as a therapist, spent many years trying to fit all the rules, being gentle, being deep, being wise, and being always calm. But she admitted that the more she tried to be that perfect character, the farther she felt from her real self. One day when a friend asked her, "If you were not all the things the world says a therapist must be, who would you actually want to become?" She cried. For the first time in her life, she did not find the answer in any old model. After several weeks of thinking, she wrote down 3 traits: strong, honest, and ready to say the hard things. These were not roles, but her real self, which she had hidden because she was afraid that others would not like her. When she lived according to that character, her career did not just grow, it matched her soul, because the inner image finally went back to its real owner. One of Jung's main lessons is this: you cannot rise above the outer world unless you have a stronger image in your inner world. And in 2026, what puts you ahead is not your current perfection, but your consistency with the character you are becoming. Someone without an inner vision will always be pulled by trends, markets, expectations, and fears. But someone with an inner vision is different. They do not react based on what is happening outside. They respond based on the direction of their soul. Imagine you are rowing a boat in the dark of night. If you only look at the water under you, you will keep spinning in circles because you cannot see the land.
But if you focus your eyes on a fixed point far away, simply keeping your eyes on it, your hands will naturally fix each move to move you forward. Inner vision is that fixed point, not to make you run fast, but to stop you from running in circles. So what is your character for the coming year? Someone calm, someone brave, someone deep, someone free, someone who lives as their real self. Remember, this character is not a title, not a job goal, but a sound of the soul, your way of standing in the world, the energy you carry, the way the world feels when you walk into a room. Each time you lose your way, go back to this question. Each time the crowd pulls you, go back to this question. Each time you stop before a choice, ask, what would the person I want to become in 2026 choose? And strangely, the answer is almost always clear, because inner vision never lies.
In a new year full of fast changes, the person who moves ahead is not the one who runs fastest, but the one who knows exactly where they are going. And if you have a strong enough soul image, the world cannot make you lose your way, because you are not just moving, you are becoming. If you believe that every human being carries inside them a beautiful character waiting to be woken up, click like on the video to share that message. Every like is not only support for the channel, but a soft reminder that in a messy world, there are still people choosing to live according to the call of their inner world, quietly, deeply, and truly. Perhaps that small act becomes the start of a new version of you in the coming year, and from here the journey becomes clearer. Not about setting goals or imagining the future, but about going back to the very shape of your soul, where the process of becoming yourself begins to open its own door.
Number 7. The door of individuation, the path that belongs only to you. This is the moment when you stand at a quiet crossroad that decides the rest of your life. Either keep fading into the rhythm of the crowd, or start walking the path that belongs only to you. Jung called this moment individuation, the deepest stage of growing up inside, where you take off the roles society has given you. Stop trying to become anyone else and start living as your whole original self. At that point, you no longer fight in someone else's race because you realize your path has no rivals. Individuation is not about leaving the world. It is a return to your real self. When you enter this path, you are no longer at the top of any race because you are no longer running in their race. You become the one ahead in a totally different way. You move along a special path where you are both the leader and the explorer. Each person comes into this world with a unique soul seed, and the biggest tragedy of life is living a whole life without ever letting that seed grow. Individuation is the moment you realize you are not the things others expect of you, not the praise or the blame, not the mask you once kept to be loved. You are what is left when all of that falls away. I once knew a woman who lived very simply, not chasing fame or big wins, but she had a deep wish to build a life of peace and truth with those she loved. For years, to make others happy, she always played the role of the strong one, the one who carried everything, the one who handled it all. But the more she lived that way, the more her soul became hard and tired and grew far from itself. One day, after a family problem, she sat down and asked, "If I no longer have to be strong for everyone, who am I?" From that moment, she began learning to show her real feelings, ask for help when needed, and let herself be soft, something she once saw as a weakness. The weird thing is that when she lived according to her real nature, her relationships became deeper. People who did not fit her moved away, and the peace she wanted finally appeared. She did not beat anyone. She simply became herself, and that is what put her ahead. She lived in a world where no one can fight her, because no one can become her. Imagine a spring forest where each tree grows in its own time. The cherry tree does not try to grow earlier than the plum tree. The plum tree does not fight with the peach flower. And the pine tree never asks why it is not as colorful as the flowers. Everything stands exactly where nature put it. And because of that, every kind is beautiful in its own way. If a cherry tree tries to live like a pine, it will die. But when it goes back to its real nature, the whole forest becomes balanced. That is individuation. When you stop trying to be someone else, you become a part of the world that cannot be replaced. Therefore, in 2026, becoming yourself is the best advantage. When you know who you are, you do not chase trends. When you know what you want, you are not led by fear. When you know your path, you don't waste energy running in someone else's race. And when you become a unique person, you step out of the common market and enter the place that belongs only to you. A place where only you exist. Your biggest question this year is not how do I beat them, but how do I become myself? Because when you become yourself, you have no rivals. You go ahead not because you run faster, but because you are not running the same path as anyone else. Individuation does not make you lonely, it makes you free. It brings you onto a path no one else can copy. And that is why those who enter this process always lead. They lead by being unique, by their soul, something no system, no crowd, no rival can make again. In a world where everyone tries to be the same to be accepted, you will lead when you dare to be different, to be yourself. And that is the real win. You become someone with no rival because you have chosen the path that belongs only to you. Conclusion. As you reach the end of this journey, you may see a truth Jung always said. No one leads the world until they lead their own inner world. In a year as messy as 2026, the advantage no longer lies in what you know or what you have, but in who you are when you are no longer controlled by noise. The 7 rules we have just looked at are not success plans, but doors into the deepest part of yourself.
The part that knows how to be still without leaving, strong without showing off power, smart without fearing the dark, and able to choose without needing the crowd's okay. When you walk through each of these doors, you do not become a better version to perform for the world. You become a more truthful version to live with yourself. And that truth is the force that puts you ahead without having to run. If what you've just heard makes you want to go further on the path of mastering your mind, hit subscribe to keep walking with us.
And if you believe someone out there needs a reminder of their inner power, share this video with them. Perhaps it is a small act, but it may open a totally different year for someone and for yourself.